All right, I'm going to assume we're good to go and start casting the game. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Fordham University Grand Final for the Fordham University Competitive Series, or as I've been told y'all like to call it, the FUCS. Here casting the FUCS with me tonight is going to be Ender, my co-caster. My name is CaptainFlowers, and we're about to jump into a best of three for you guys. Ender, are you ready for this?
Oh, I was born ready. I think we're going to be in for some exciting games, some exciting pick bands, and that is what you get when you get these series. You know, these guys love each other, they know each other, and they are ready to bring it for all of it, for all the marbles, the FUCS finals right here.
All right, so when you get into an obviously top-level competition like the FUCS, you got to look at the teams that are going to be playing. You got Team 2 on the side of the blue, which conveniently enough is actually Team 1 this time around, considering that's what it's labeled on the left, and the Swifty Rams on the right side of your screen right now. But one thing I want to go ahead and note about the Swifty Rams is the Gilb, Optic Waffles, and Nami Sex Slave are not... Wait, he changed his name? Okay, no, never mind. It still says Nami Sex Slave. I'm just making sure we got everything there. But the Gilb, Optic Waffles, and Nami Sex Slave, these are all substitute players. Swifty Rams is only working with 2 out of 5 of the starting roster tonight.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing to work with, and we'll see that can really start to change their pick bands, and you know, who really knows how much practice they had coming into this. But if you did make it all the way, no matter what tournament you're playing in, that does show that you're at least somewhat of a coherent team. And now that you do have to change up so much of your roster, it can be a struggle, especially at the last minute. And some of the picks we might be seeing them on here today, you guys might not be quite as used to seeing them play during the rest of the season.
All right, bans are completed now for game number 1. It's going to be Graves and Syndra banned away from the side of T2, and they're also going to ban the Jax off the board. I was told just before this game started that is a favorite champion of the Gilb, so not surprised to see these specific counter picks coming out, these specific champion targeting bans thrown out the window as they don't want to have to deal with that. Wukong, LeBlanc, and Karma going to be taken off the table by the side of the Swifty Rams.
Yeah, and even though Gilb might love that Jax pick up in the top lane, it's tough to say that you're necessarily banning this guy out because he played 109 different unique champions over the course of the last season. That's 109 out of 133. That's ridiculous.
That is an incredibly high champion pool. You can't say the dude doesn't have versatility. We'll have to see what he decides to lock in. We're seeing Super Papa John lock in the Nautilus immediately for Team 2. We've seen Nautilus in multiple roles across Summoner's Rift over his lifetime in competitive League of Legends, so I don't really know where we're going to be seeing him today, most likely in the top lane, but Optic Waffles and Nami Sex Slave going to be responding with that Sejuani plus Caitlyn.
Yeah, with the new Courage of the Colossus, Nautilus has seen a resurgence in play up in that top lane. Sejuani as well over on the other side, going to be able to utilize that mastery very effectively. And if this beginning phase of the draft, this first rotation, tells us anything about the series as a whole from a pick ban perspective, it is that we are going to be looking at a lot of these gigantic tanks that can just pump out a whole lot of crowd control, and that the carries for both teams aren't going to be having the greatest times in these games.
Now, let's talk about carries for both teams here for a second, because the FUCS actually has an interesting setup compared to a lot of other, like amateur leagues that you would see that aren't limited to a specific college campus pool of players, where they don't have equally grouped, I should say. Well, they are equally grouped, but they're not all in the same area in terms of ranking. You don't have a bunch of diamond guys or a bunch of platinum guys or a bunch of silver guys. These guys span the entire ELO rainbow. We've got things ranging from silver 4 all the way up, well, actually silver 5, since Nami Sex Slave's been subbed into the Swifty Rams, all the way up to diamond 5. So both of these teams are going to be depending, especially upon their higher-leveled players, to be those carries this game. And for both teams, it's actually the mid laners in WO3 and Optic Waffles who are the highest-ranked guys in the team, who are likely going to be those carries, who are going to need to put the rest of the team on their back. As Nightcock 3 goes ahead and locks in Tristana, Lorenzo-san going to pick up that Rek'Sai.
Yeah, and the flip side of those mid laners is that the 280 carries, both Nightcock and Nami's Sex Slave, they're probably the lowest ranking members of the team. And that can create an interesting dynamic if you're a jungler in these games. On the one hand, maybe you can punish bot lane really, really hard because they might not be showing you enough respect or whatnot. But on the other hand, you really want to swing that mid lane matchup because that is where a lot of the power is for both of these squads, and whoever can get that slight edge might just be able to run away with the entire game.
I do want to see how that affects prioritization for these players in this game, because normally look at professional League of Legends, right? Like, let's take a look at some LCS games, some Worlds games, some MSI games, any of that shit, man. When you take a look at those games, so often, once you get to the later part of the game, and even as early as, the mid game, the AD carries are heavily prioritized. They're the guys you got to bring down. They're the guys who are going to be topping the damage charts. But in a game with such a difference of skill between some players, I don't know if that's going to be the goal. I don't know if that's what we're going to see. And that's kind of going to be the fun of this. That's what I'm looking forward to of this, is just kind of those unexpected changes that we're going to end up getting to see over the course of this game. Alistair and Orianna are going to be the picks for rotation number 2 for the Swifty Rams.
Yeah, a little bit interesting right there. The Orianna, not necessarily seen as being that big mid lane carry, although if you do position that ball very well, you can really start to swing those fights, and they're going to have the setup to do just that, with the Alistar, with the Sejuani. And on the same side, over the other hand of the map, we don't really know where those last 2 lock-ins are really going to go, but again, neither of those champions can really express your skill at the game. It's a lot of point and click, and not necessarily champions that you would expect to see carry an entire game, but rather set up and perform very well in team fights.
All right, so it's Kled who's going to be the final piece of the puzzle, locked in on the side of the Swifty Rams. I have seen very, very little of this champion in competitive play overall. We got to see him, I think, in a couple of games at Worlds, but really not a lot. He's pretty situational. He works with some comps, but he derps really hard in others. And the Swain and the Lissandra, like you just mentioned, those are kind of different picks too. And what these also indicate is that Nautilus will be played in the support role.
Yeah, that is going to be the case. Very interesting down there. 2 of these melee supports that are just going to go at it all the time. But again, I don't think we're going to be seeing a big focus come from that bottom lane, although both those champions do provide very great gank setup. But I want to go back to the Gilb and his Kled here, because it will be able to set up these fights very, very well for a big team fighting team with that ultimate. Get everyone in there for all the action.
All right, speaking of that action, we're going to be loading in just momentarily. We got a 3-minute spectator delay. We'll be right back during that, but once it's over, we'll be live for game number 1. Keep it here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. We're on to Summoner's Rift for the first time tonight in this best of 3 to decide who's going to be the victor of the Fordham University Competitive Series, the FUCS. And tonight's competitors are going to be Team 2 in the blue, the Swifty Rams in the red. Swifty Rams, of course, only operating with 2 out of 5 of the starting roster on the team. The other 3 players are substitutes as we're jumping in and getting ready to go for the full series. My name's CaptainFlowers. I'm going to be casting this one with Ender. Ender, talk to me a little bit about what you're expecting here based on what we saw in the pick ban phase.
Well, I do think that the mid lane is going to be the primary focus for both of these junglers right here. I think that Team 2 can do a little bit more previous to that level 6, but expect Private to make his way there once both he and Optic Waffles do reach that real breaking point in that lane. They're the 2 strongest players for each of the respective teams, and once you start swinging that matchup, it is a matchup that will not go back into the other one's favor, because these guys know how to play with those advantages, and both can punish very, very hard once they do get those.
Right, and we were talking about that in pick and ban phase. We were talking about the diamond versus diamond matchup, and then during the downtime between the pick and ban phase and the game actually starting, you and I were talking a little bit about the junglers. We mentioned in pick and ban also the AD carries being the lowest ranked players in the map and how that might affect things. But the one thing we also talked about was the fact that neither you or me really has any experience whatsoever talking about the Swain versus Kled matchup. So this top lane 1v1 is just going to be anybody's business.
Yeah, it's 2 champions that you hardly ever see played anymore. You know, Swain had his time in the spotlight a little bit earlier in the season, but since then has pretty much disappeared from any sort of competitive tier list, and now it'll be very, very interesting to see how that one does pan out. The Gilb, if you're wondering about Kled Keystones, he is taking that Courage of the Colossus, which he will be able to proc with his Bear Trap on a rope, and maybe going to give him a way to make these trades work out for himself.
Yep, getting some good trading onto Calero 35
Ooh.
Nice and early here, landing the power of the... You see, this is the problem. I don't even actually know what Kled's W is supposed to be called. Violent Tendencies. All right, today I learned something new. I just normally call it Kled's W. So that shows how much you're actually exposed to that champion on a regular basis. But LazyButt123 in the Twitch chat says, wait, we have 3 subs on one team. Yes, sir. You've got, for the Swifty Rams, Optic Waffles, the Gilb, and Nami Sexslave are all substitute players, not normally on the roster.
And this is a little bit maybe. See, I'm looking at these junglers here, and Lorenzo is waiting over on the side, maybe trying to get that early level 3 gank. Got the flash already.
Going to make it happen on Optic Waffles with the enemy flash down. It's that much easier to find success with that opportunity, but he won't get it just yet. Again, you're going to see the Guild looking to make some kind of a play onto Calero in the top side of the map, but Calero staying very far back underneath his own turret, not going to be allowing his opponent to jump on him that easily. Private now collecting his own red buff. We'll have to see where he gets involved next.
And Optic Waffles actually flashed there before he saw the Rek'Sai getting near to that middle lane, which is a little bit of a surprise that there was already just level 3 so much pressure being put down onto him. Now, neither of those mid laners without any potions. That means no form of sustain, but WO3, he did take the TP, which can be both used to get back into that middle lane if things do get a little bit hairy, or also potentially to impact those side lanes.
Private coming into gank here, but he's not exactly super healthy. Doesn't want to go too deep against this because WO3 might just be able to turn right around on him. Private gonna have to run back after that one.
Yeah, WO3, no respect there for the Swifty Rams jungler. Ooh!
He's Sex Slave. Be a little bit careful here, able to find some decent damage on the Super Papa John, but Nightcock 3 returning some of his own. Both these AD carries just gonna keep going blow for blow for blow as they both back away, both losing about half their HP, but it's Nightcock 3 who finds himself worse for wear.
Yeah, and going back to that teleport, WO3 did take that one, and for a game that neither of us really thought there was going to be a whole lot of pressure put down in that bottom lane, running teleport out of the mid lane does sort of indicate that you may be going for that as a way to pick up an advantage in this game, and it wouldn't necessarily be the worst one with a Mountain Dragon spawning to start things off here in the FUCS finals. Going down bottom to get some priority over that objective might not be a bad call.
And you know, the Fordham University competitive series, this might not be a league that anybody outside of Fordham University and us really knows much about. WO3 and Optic Waffles still in that 1v1 yet again. Lorenzo-san looking to maybe finish this one off, but with the Shivani, but not with the Shyvana, with the Sejuani showing herself up there in the mid lane, that is going to immediately cancel that aggro out. Both junglers going to be hanging around this bottom side of the jungle on the side of the blue team, seeing what they might be able to find. Private trying to steal things away.
Papa John is here, though.
Papa John hanging around, seeing if he can make something happen, maybe onto Private, who dashes himself back over the wall. And again, nothing's going to be happening. 5.5 minutes in, still no first blood, but it's going to be Guild again, looking to go aggro onto Calero 35. TP is going to be channeled. If they can get WO3 in here in time, they might be able to lock this guy down. Calero needs a little bit more damage to dismount that enemy Kled from the Lizard. Private jumps right into the mix, looking to go on these guys as hard as he can, but Gilb's only got a little bit of HP remaining before he gets dismounted and loses a lot of his kit. Both these guys going to back away.
That's another way to utilize the Lissandra teleport. Don't even go bottom lane. Try and get a pick up there in the top, but unable to really find all that much, and does find himself on the back of a little bit of a CS lead over on the side of Optic Waffles, but nothing really to write home about. And actually, it's going to be Team 2 with the early advantage in gold, and that really has been due mostly in part to the fact that Lorenzo has gotten a pretty large CS lead over his counterpart Private.
Yeah, Lorenzo's got a CS lead. You look in the bottom lane, you've got a CS lead for Nightcock 3. Top lane, you've got a CS lead now for Calero 35. The CS is going the way of Team 2 in every lane except the mid lane. But the gold overall pretty much not being too much of a differentiation. Like you already mentioned, nothing really to write home about, even though there are those small differences. Tiamat now completed on the side of Lorenzo means he's only going to be power farming that much more effectively, that much more quickly. And again, I'm going to be looking to these junglers to make some kind of a play.
Yeah, and really strange first pickup actually from Calero, who went for those early Ionian boots. Gonna get the cooldown reduction right there. Not really rushing the Rod of Ages, which is typically seen on a top lane, or any lane really, swaying top or mid, and doesn't really use the teleport to get back in the lane. Not going to get the full value out of those Ionian boots just yet, because that's another of the thing that the Ionian boots do bring to the table. A little bit of a peculiar pickup, no sustain, just the CDR, which is not necessarily the biggest stat to have on a Swain, because you really want the mana regen to keep your ultimate active for the longest time possible.
Speaking of Swain's ultimate, we're actually seeing the hard counter pick in terms of itemization come out from the Guild first and foremost. Going to go ahead and rush that Executioner's Calling, making sure that when he gets in these all-ins with Swain, Swain's not going to be kept alive by that constant Ravenous Flock healing.
Yeah, and Guild has been trading quite a lot here, and no stranger to that, going all in, but really getting worse for wear on that trade. Calero loses nothing except the majority of his mana. Yeah, there you go.
There's what you were talking about, right? With the Rod of Ages necessity. Yeah, he can do that, but how's he going to do it more than once Optic Waffles in some trouble here in the mid lane. WO3 and Lorenzo-san looking to make it happen if they can. There comes your Frozen Tomb. First blood over to the side of T2.
And Optic Waffles actually had his flashback up, but did not use it there. Now on to Sex Slave.
Sex Slave having to try to get himself out of this one if he can, but over the wall comes Nightcock 3. Alistair looking to make the two-man pulverize, keeping this AD carry alive, but the burst comes out. And Nightcock's going to grab himself the second kill of this game. As topside, it's Gilb looking to jump on Calero 35. The mana does prove to be too much of a problem, and that's going to be a 2-1 game as Team 2 looks to take the Drake.
Yeah, that's the funny thing right there, is that the Executioner's culling didn't seem like it really did all that much when the ultimate was on from Calero, because he was still able to keep his HP fairly high, but once he did run out of mana right there, did end up being his fate. That's the early bottom lane pressure we were talking about as well, where Team 2, they went out pretty much all across the board, except up in that top lane, and the guild maybe gonna have to be looked toward to be a big carry force for the Swifty Rams, because right now, middle lane, big priority for them, not going well, and down bottom, gonna be at a pretty large deficit as well.
Private came really close there to killing himself on the red buff, too. I don't know if that was totally calculated or if he was just deciding he wanted to roll the bones, but he was one hit away from getting killed by the Brambleback in his own side of the jungle. Making sure to try to maximize that farming, but at great personal danger to himself.
That's the hidden team, the third team in League of Legends. It's always right there.
Jungle
the AI.
Freaks.
Well, the minions, too. Those guys count turrets. You guys all remember the Renegades Dignitas game from last season, and oh, it's all the way down the mid lane.
Gilb, here comes the mid lane dive. If he can make it happen, it's going to be big. Private with the follow-up. Frozen Tomb, Frozen Prison, all the Frozen all across the land. That's going to be an easy tie-up as we've got ourselves a 2-2 game.
That is one way to make the Kled pickup work right there. You know, I was saying it was going to be really useful for team fighting, but also just roaming straight around there. Calero, he doesn't have flash.
Going to find himself in a bad spot as Optic Waffles throws down the shockwave, and the follow-up damage is more than extreme enough to pick off that enemy top laner and put the Swifty Rams in the lead yet again.
And now Private is trying to steal away that blue buff. But the thing is, Lorenzo knows it's going on. He just doesn't have the manpower around to help him out. Papa John busy in the middle lane, and now he's in a 1v2 around that blue buff.
Lorenzo-san, seeing if he can get himself away from this one, but the pursuit powers of the guild are nothing to mess with once he has his lizard at least. While he's in this small form, it's not really that big of a deal. Scarl comes back, keeping him alive for now, still might be able to make this happen in a 1-for-1. Private comes back over the wall, they're able to grab the kill onto Lorenzo, but now it's WO3 who's found himself between a rock, a hard place, and an entire enemy team. Double kill for the Kled.
Not sure about that one right there. WO3 had the ultimate up the entire time. Now Calero wants to turn.
Calero's going right back in. These guys just cannot finish the guild off effectively. They finally get in there, manage to bring him down. Of course, Calero loses half his life to do it. But that's the power of Kled. That's one of the biggest things about that champion, is the fact that you can bait people in, utilize the fact that your lizard comes back and gives you an absolutely massive health bonus, and end up turning a fight around.
Yeah, a Hex Drinker too, so all the hidden tankiness is right there. Nightcock, he doesn't have much in the way of teammates around him, though.
Optic Waffles showing up to help his buddy out. We're going to see Nami doing the same thing, and that's another easy pickup over onto the side of the Swifty Rams. But the game's still all tied up in terms of gold, because remember, first turret blood that was just picked up by Nightcock 3 actually counts for quite a lot.
Yeah, and even this gigantic CS lead that has developed in this mid lane is being nullified by the side lanes from Team 2, keeping this gold differential very, very close. Neither of the teams want to give all that big an advantage, and you see Swifty Rams make a play around that middle lane, while Team 2, they battle back down in the bottom, pick up a kill onto Calero. So at the start of this game, already looking like we're in for a tight series all around, with neither team really wanting to give up any positioning, any foothold across this entire map.
Yeah, they've been doing a good job matching each other. I want to see if they can keep that up as the game goes on, or if one of them... You know, sometimes teams are evenly matched in terms of the laning phase, and then once you go further on into the game, into the mid game, into the late game, it turns into one team having an advantage there that they might not have had during the early part of the match. So I want to see if they remain this equal as the game goes on, or if they're only this closely matched in the early aspects of the game. You are seeing quite a few wards being placed down by the side of Team 2, all across their own jungle. You got the control wards there at the top tri-brush, in the mid lane on the side of the river, on the back side of that own red buff, based Annie and Private going to be moving in to remove that right now, but they're trying to maintain this vision control as well as they can.
Yeah, it's battling back and forth as well because you saw a couple of control wards that were in the inventory of the Swifty Rams that they just placed down in the enemy jungle trying to, dominate that vision game, which they were losing out on previously. Optic Waffles.
WO3 doing a great job dodging away from the enemy shockwave while also putting himself in a position to outplay Optic Waffles and grab that kill in what was a 1v1, quickly turned around. Based Annie going to be trying to get himself away from this one, but he does not have the ulti available just yet. One more auto attack should do it. Prey Seeker's going to find the money as Calero tries to get himself away from the kill, but it's not going to escape that shotgun blast. 7-5, Swifty Rams.
Yeah, and right there you see it again. Team 2 this time pick up the couple of kills in that middle lane and up in the top lane. The Gilb been performing absolutely fantastically on this awkward pick, the Kled that you don't see all that often. He is going 4-1-2, and it's the rest of his team. They're really looking shaky.
Now we've got a 2-0 turret lead, excuse me. This Private has to get himself back a little bit here. He's tanky, but he's not really in any position to try to contest all 4 members of Team 2 as they've now found themselves with a 2,000 gold lead 14 minutes into the game, sitting in a real nice spot. Swain starting to get a little bit tankier, has that Catalyst, the Protector you were kind of talking about earlier, what you'd normally expect from a Swain, and of course Rod of Ages already completed on Lysandra as well.
It's actually not going to be a Rod of Ages, though, for Calero. I think it's going to be a Hextech GLP right there, which is very strange, I'd have to say. And maybe hints as to why he went for those early Ionian boots, because typically you want to rush into the Rod of Ages, get it stacking up as quickly as possible. But if you're going for the GLP, you don't need it to scale up. You don't need to get it all that early, so maybe you can sidetrack yourself a little bit with those Lucidity boots.
He's still got his work cut out for him here in the top half of the map, having to deal with Gilb. Considering Gilb's got that Hex Drinker, that Executioner's Calling, he's building specifically to deal with Calero. And Calero, with his more general application build, going to have to make sure he's very careful about how he plays this. Because if he lets Gilb get on top of him, if he misses the Never move, he's going to be in a real bad spot.
Yeah, and it is kind of hard to land your Never move at the same time with all those dashes Gilb is going to have, and might have to try once again up here.
Gilb's still going to be looking for this. Never move gets placed. Gilb walks right into it, though. And that's a good disengage for Calero.
Yeah, although it's going to be really scary to walk up into this lane. There's potential freeze that Gilb could set up right here. And Calero, with no innate escapes built into his kit, is going to have a hard time to get away from Gilb or any sort of ganks that come out from the Swifty Rams.
Never move misses. Gilb might not have his Lizard, but he's still looking to make the plays if he can. One more auto attack into the shotgun blast might just do it. Who even needs him? Lunge going to put him in position. Gilb's able to find the kill. Meanwhile, mid lane, Team 2 going to be forced back yet again. Based Annie looking for the opportunity to find some kind of a pulverize. Gets the flash out of Super.
Yeah, now because Calero went down, that buys so much time, Gilb is actually roaming towards this middle lane. It's a potential for a 5 versus 3, and you see Nightcock, he's splitting down bot.
Gilb looking to make the dive. Here he comes, able to drop the aggro as soon as he loses his Lizard, but Lorenzo-san's still going to pick up the kill onto him in this dive. 1-for-1 so far. Base Annie going to be shot up by that turret. Super Papa John going to be double killed by Optic Waffles. And that's going to be a pretty huge win coming out from the Swifty Rams. They take down the enemy Tier 1 turret. They win the fight, and they tie the game right back up in gold.
Yeah, they could even go down, pick up a dragon if they so desired at the same time. It still remains to be determined if they want to go for that one, although they are sticking around. Lorenzo will have the Void Rush if he wants to come back, or he doesn't even have to recall, can just go for a steal, because with that CS lead we were talking about, he does have a couple of levels. No flash, though, so if he goes in, it's going to be for his life.
Nope, secured. No problem. Private makes sure he has the smite ready, takes that away, not going to let Prey Seeker come over the wall and potentially deny that. So we've got a 1-0-5 Sejuani against a 2-1-3 Rek'Sai. Both junglers actually doing a really good job this game.
Yeah, it's very close all around the board. Kill participation-wise, Lorenzo's looking better percentage-wise, although Private has been a little bit more active. One more kill that he's participated in right there, although it really hasn't been... Yeah, no deaths either, and it doesn't feel like it's been him ganking necessarily, as it has been Swifty Rams grouping up or going for those small skirmishes.
Gilb going to find a little bit of damage onto Super Papa John, but Papa's looking to bring him right back in here with that dredge line. More damage going to be coming out now from Calero, but Gilb is just way too tanky. Gets himself back in time, doesn't even end up losing his Lizard, and now he'll just be in a good spot to defend and clear these waves away.
Yeah, funny that you say tanky, because he really is. Whoa, that mid lane.
WO3 going to be shockwaved right back. Optic Waffles turning the burst onto the enemy mid laner. WO3 not respecting what Optic Waffles is capable of. Lorenzo-san going to be forced to tunnel over that wall, trying to escape here as Private and Based Annie move themselves to the northern part of the river, looking to take down Calero if they can. Private still not able to chase this one all the way back down. Optic Waffles going to get himself back, having to pop the flash. Lorenzo-san locked down and shot up. Optic Waffles 6-2-3.
And now Swifty Ram's going to be able to even up that turret score if they look for that top. They may even pick up the Rift Herald. That one is on the table, and Gilb is going to love that. Just make him even more of a monster in the 1v1 up against Calero, which he is actually just crushing already. Calero really has no room to even move around in that matchup, because if he shows his face, Gilb just jumps straight onto him and goes for that fight.
Turrets are tied up now. Super Papa John's got to be careful. They're cooking up trouble if they can find him. Optic Waffles there for the damage yet again. Going to be finding kill number 7 as this game goes up to a 14-6 lead for the team with 3 subs.
Yeah, and even though the gold has been very close, the kills weren't that stretched apart because the last, 3-4 minutes, there's been this huge advantage given over not only to the Swifty Rams as a whole, but look at the kill score right now from Optic Waffles. We are looking towards these 2 mid laners to really run away with this game. It was the Gilb show, but now Optic Waffles in a prime position to carry his team.
Shockwave onto Nightcock 3. The damage comes through. There comes her Alice with follow-up, able to make the play. Nami Sexslave going to be forced to flash back. Calero tries to find the flank, but all he's going to be finding is a ball full of death. Optic Waffles flashed himself back, keeping himself alive. Lorenzo-san trying to escape. The follow-up likely not going to be able to back the fight. Optic Waffles dominating that back in the fight kill over on Lorenzo. Those alive, shut down over onto Private. They're going to be trading W for it. Gil barely getting himself away from that turret aggro just in time. 4 for 2. Another good fight comes down from the Swifty Rams.
Yeah, and even just watching that team fight, it looks like Team 2 maybe not quite on the same page as we were, looking at focusing onto Optic Waffles, because all of their cooldowns, all of their big abilities were directed straight onto Nami Sexslave, who only has 1 kill to his name. He's this mid-game Caitlyn that really hasn't come into his own with those 2 or 3 items to really start the ball rolling. And Optic Waffles was over on the side. No one was standing in front of him. He was just over by himself, and there was no real attention focused on him until it was too late, and Team 2 really didn't have a chance to make up for a really lost team fight.
So now that Team 2 is down 3,000 gold, 10 kills, they're only tied in terms of objectives, things are starting to look more and more difficult for them. Things are starting to look more and more like a game where the Swifty Rams are going to be the ones dictating what's happening. And Based Annie, now got to be some care exercise in his own right. Gets caught out a little bit there by 3 different members, but luckily they don't want to go deep onto the Alistair. Look at that burst! The Sejuani ultimate comes in only to find a dead body waiting for it. Optic Waffles, 10, 3, and 5. Luden's Echo burst more than enough to take down that enemy AD carry.
Yeah, that Luden's Echo adds just a little bit more there, and honestly, probably not even necessary. You could build any second item right there and completely rip apart Nightcock. Looked so strong. Optic Waffles now with 10 kills to his name at just 21.5 minutes. That's over 50% of his team's kills, and I don't know, it looks like they're heading over towards this Baron.
And this is what we were talking about, wasn't it, Ender? The contest between the 2 mid laners, the highest ranked guys on the team, which one's going to be the carry? And right now, it's looking like Optic Waffles. Calero 35 trying to make a tricky flash over the wall, but he's not going to get away. Angle still not enough to escape the wrath of the collapsing Swifty Rams. Gil going to be jumping right back into this fight, looking to find even more if he can. Super Papa John going to go ahead and use that ultimate defensively, trying to keep Optic Waffles away, but the damage is just way too much. Optic Waffles going to go up to 12-3.
Yeah, Calero's flash there pretty much just brought them to Papa John, who was trying to escape, and now the siege is going to come in, or just a fight, dive under this tower.
Ivan making the dive happen. There comes your Shockwave. Going to be finding the way onto 2. Nightcock already dead. Lorenzo-san going to be shot to pieces next. WO3 still alive, but what is a lone man going to do against the 5-man push coming in from the Swifty Rams? 22 minutes into the game, they're going to find inhibitor number 1.
Well, this game was so close. I mean, you said it so aptly earlier in this game. Sometimes the early games look very close, and then one team just runs away with it. That is exactly what the Swifty Rams are doing right here, and even Calero can't even make it to this turret to defend.
And in the Twitch chat, the last message somebody typed was My Big Cheese saying, my boy Optic Waffles is going to tear shit up. I don't know if this dude is some kind of a psychic or what, but he definitely made the prediction of Optic Waffles going off this game 13, 3, and 6. Highest CS in the game by about 50. Optic Waffles is easily MVP material.
Oh, yeah, no doubt about it. And the rest of his team falling in line very, very well at the same time. It's all really coming together now for the Swifty Rams, and what was a close game now completely blown out of proportion. You're not used to seeing, inhibitors fall down at 22 minutes in games that are pretty one-sided. Usually it takes just a while to make it in there, but they're just running them over.
Optic Waffles grabbing 1 kill for free, gonna be making it 2 for free, gonna be making it 3 for free. And that is so much easy money for the Swifty Rams. They think they might be able to pick Optic Waffles off, but Team 2 is just too far behind against this incredibly fed Orianna. Papa John goes back in the wall. WO3 tries to come in and stop this, but what's he going to do in a 1v5? They get juggled around and brought down. Private goes right back.
What's Papa John doing?
Still looking to finish this one off. I don't know what Super Papa John is going to be looking to do about this. Private's still here. I believe he should still have a kill, but he misses the side. It's still going to be secured by the side of Swift Camp. They take down the last standing enemy, and these guys are looking to end this game. Surrender comes out. That's GG in game 1. Victory for Swift Rams.
That would have been glorious had Super Papa John actually been able to steal it over the wall. Maybe even a possibility at 300 HP, but a pretty one-sided Game 1 victory for the Swifty Rams. Once we got into that, 17-minute mark, they just took that one by the neck, and it was all theirs.
Hey, man, sometimes 3 subs isn't enough to bring you down. You're still able to find a fantastic win like that. We'll have to see if they can do it again in Game 2. If 2/5 of the Swifty Rams plus their 3 homies can best Team 2 one more time, they are going to be your champions. We'll be right back.